Welcome to NeuroMovement Revolution with Anat Baniel, where you will discover breakthrough possibilities for your life through the brain's power to change. We're so happy that you can join us in making the impossible possible.
I think we're on.
Are we on?
Yes. Good morning, everybody, for whom it is morning, and good rest of the day to whomever has the rest of the day. And welcome to episode 27 of the NeuroMovement Revolution podcast. Let's announce the title of the podcast, which is Getting Ready for the Holidays with NeuroMovement.
Yeah.
And we are not on holiday, but we are staying in a hotel. We are in Tucson because we're currently teaching segment 4 of the current Children's Mastery Program. And we're in Tucson at the Casino del Sol.
Yes.
Yes.
But we are not gambling.
No.
Yeah.
So what would you like to say, Anat? We have an announcement.
Yeah, well, first of all, I would like to say welcome. So welcome, everyone. And we wanted to make sure to have this podcast because the holidays are coming. And next month, we have one more podcast, right?
That's right, one more before.
One before the holidays, before
the Christmas holiday, yeah.
Yeah, so one falls on Thanksgiving and one falls on Christmas. So we have one more.
In between those two.
Yeah. And we're going to have a very, very exciting guest live that we will announce to you via email. So stay tuned for that. And
yes,
I want to do a couple announcements before we get into our conversation. So we remember to do that. The first one is that Adiel Gorel, he's a long-term friend, has a PBS live show called Live 201, which will be aired on Saturday, November 16th at 3:30 Pacific Central Time on the Arkansas station AETN. I'm one of the featured experts in this program. And Adiel, or as I call him Adi, has done one last year, and this year decided to kind of reorganize his program and bring himself and his expertise around money and investments and other experts. So, my work and, environmental, having environmental at home, toxin clean environment and other kinds of movement things and whatever. I'm trying to holistic medicine, different speakers, and Adi will be presenting our work. And for those who are interested, we each wrote a chapter and a book is coming out and there'll be video materials from everybody. So again, if you yourself or anybody that's in Arkansas on the station AETN, it will be broadcast on November 16th at 3:30 p.m. On December 1st, this program is going national on the different PBS local stations. So that's the first announcement. And the second announcement is the December podcast that I mentioned will this one time be on Wednesday, on December 11th, at the regular time that we do, which 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. And we will announce our guest that I'm so excited to have, and to have him live would be just fantastic. So let's take it. And I forgot. Oh my God. Our annual holiday sale begins Monday, November 18th. We have 60% off bundled programs or program bundles, and we'll have 50% off So 60 of bundled programs, 50% of individual programs. And for those of you who want for yourself the work to improve your own well-being, to get over pain, to get stronger, to understand the work better, to have ideas more what to do with your child, this can be great. And for those of you who are parents, of children with special needs or work with children with special needs, it's also a fantastic opportunity to get the 5-day parent-child workshop, or now it's streaming only, the 2-day workshop. But the 5-day parent-child workshop is more recent and has a whole lot more content to it. So, and we'll try to remember to announce it towards the end, the holiday sale, because it comes once a year and it's really a great opportunity. It's a major reduction in prices because we want everybody to be able to have it. Okay, so now we are going into today's podcast. And the thought that Neil and I had is from our personal experience and, of course, from experience of many, many people, the holidays can be wonderful and lovely and heartwarming and an opportunity to connect with family or be with family. And at the same time, it can also be very, very stressful or somewhat stressful for people. So I would like to open it up. We have a few people right now, but if anybody has anything you want to, either how you handle stress, or, and especially, of course, I and Neil will look to relate it to the Anat Baniel method, NeuroMovement, and how you can use some of the principles of the work and the understanding of how the brain works to make the experience less stressful and more fulfilling. So if anybody has any question or would like to report anything, please just message us on the Facebook, right?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. Underneath this video.
Do you want to say anything about it?
I mean, it is a very rich period of the year for many reasons, both positive and negative. I mean, many people have very negative associations with the holidays, as well as, having very fond memories sometimes of maybe childhood Christmases and holidays. One thing that can often happen is that you visit your family, and they remember you as you were when you were a child, and before you left home, and however much growth and evolution you've gone through in your life, and however loving your family are, you go back home and suddenly you regress into sort of childhood, and they're relating to you in the way that they related to you as a child, and that can be very challenging. I have a very loving family. I don't have this experience in any marked way, but I mean, we all have it to a certain degree, some more than others. And I definitely know that what I have achieved through doing our work has given me so many tools to remain connected to the person I know myself to be. So I definitely think we have tools to offer people.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I know that.
I know you know that.
I just want to know if anybody has anything to say.
Well, we haven't got any live comments yet, but we did have a question that was submitted by Kavita.
Okay.
From London.
Okay.
Which I have on my phone. And she says, a question for today's podcast, if possible. Hi, Kavita. I don't know if you're on. Oh, there she is. She just added it to the feed. Hi, Kavita. My son, age 2, has recently fractured his leg. He's unable to roll, but had been making some efforts to attempt this prior to the injury. He will continue to be having some ABM lessons, but not as much during the festive period. Can you suggest things in terms of movement for him with his other limbs and also distraction during his 2 months with a cast, as this is causing him some frustration?
It's a little hard to, there isn't like a recipe kind of thing to do, but what happens and could be useful when anyone breaks an arm or leg and it's casted, it, as most people probably know, there's tendency to have a atrophy of the muscles, and the atrophy, people think it's associated with the reduced use or the lack of use of those muscles for movement, while the limb is in a cast, which of course that contributes to it. However, the atrophy happens very, very quickly. It happens much quicker than it would happen if you had the flu and you lay in bed for 3 or 4 days, right? The atrophy, most of it happens within the first 36 to, I think, 48 hours or something like that. So that means that it's central nervous system generated and controlled. Saying that, it gives an opportunity to engage with the brain in a way that will reverse that. That doesn't mean that we take off the cast and ask somebody with a broken limb to start running or jogging or exercising, but it means that through our work we don't need to do that in order for the brain to change, quote unquote, change its mind and see the broken limb as more viable. So 2 things are required to do that. One is to not put demands on the broken limb, because then there will be a reaction and a self-protection and an inhibition of the willingness to start engaging and using that part neurologically. So what I've done that with clients. I've done that with my father, who was in his 60s when he broke one of his legs pretty badly and was in a cast, full cast for 6 months or 3 months, and half cast for 6 months. Anyway, long time. And what I told him, he called me up and told me I was, here in the States and he's in Israel, what he can do. And he's done my work quite a bit. So I told him I sent him recordings of movement lessons, and I told him to do the movement on the side that's not broken, to do it small and gentle and small enough so it doesn't impact because the body is connected. If you do really big movements with the leg that's not broken, it can still, yank the other leg and impact it in an undesirable way. So to do small movements, and as an adult, I could also tell him to visualize his skeleton, his bones, really, really to do kind of like a scan, an internal scan, and visualize the bones and kind of paint them or soak them in his imagination with white, and to do it on the side first that was not hurt. And then I asked him, and to do the movements, and then to do it only on one side, whatever movements I recorded for him, and then to imagine, first of all, imagine the skeleton, soak it with a white color, and then imagine doing the movements that he did on the not broken side, on the broken side. And he started doing it right away after, probably within 24 or 36 hours. So when they came to change his cast, a few weeks into it, there was some complications, so they had to take it off and put a new cast. There was no atrophy to his muscles. And the doctor, my father called me and he said, there's no atrophy to my muscles. do you know what the doctor said? I said, I know. He said, I can't believe it, and then moved on. And he said, how did you know? I said, because I've been through this a few times. Anyway, so this is very, very powerful. This is, now, when you have a little child, you can't tell them to imagine their skeleton. You can't do all that stuff, but you can engage. So a few things that you can do is you can do some whatever movement, bend the leg playfully, very gently, touch the knee of that leg with one hand, the other hand. And then you put your hand under the leg with a cast and you take the weight off that leg, because it's not only it's broken now, it weighs almost double. It's a little thing, right? It weighs a whole lot more. So you take away the weight and you can, I don't know how they cast it in, but usually the toes still are available. So you don't do anything hard, but you touch the toes and like do a tiny movement, like you're unscrewing, a screw in a wine bottle, taking it out like that. So you do a tiny, tiny movement, and just a tiny, I don't know, a half a gram of pull as you do it. And you do it 3-4 times, and you can say, oh, that's your toe. And then you go to the toe of the side that was not hurt, and you do it. And then you do it on the toe, basically looking to transfer whatever was created in the brain on the side that's not hurt, to do a, so to speak, direct transmission, not through the exercising of the leg itself. And then you'll see, I don't know if you will be able to see it or not, but the brain starts creating a preference to the side that was not hurt and to the side that is easier and lighter to move. So you go with a preference, you roll him a little bit, you show a toy, but then you can, after you do it to the side that's easy, you do it a little bit to the other side, but not again and again trying to yank it into him, because that will give the exact opposite outcome, but just suggesting it and going back, I don't know, 4 or 5 minutes, 4 or 5 times a day. And then you can put under the leg, that if he's lying on his back, you can put under the leg a small roller with the right diameter and put it under the knee. So, and maybe even a thinner roller under the ankles. So the leg is lifted, and again, it doesn't pull on him with the weight of the cast, because that's hard. And you can do stuff with the head, because when you move the head very gently, you shift the weight one way, another way. Go first, you'll see the side that's not broken, and probably the head would be much happier to go to then, so to speak, than to the other side. And let me know if that's helpful. And let us know when we are on again how it worked, or email us or text us, maybe it's better.
And I just want to add to that, because I know that, Kavita, you've got a practitioner coming next week. Juan Carlos is going to be in London
so
next week. So
he should listen to
exactly.
To the answer.
Get him to listen to this, because that'll really inform him how to help your son. Okay, we have a question from Nedi Safar. I will be visiting my 1-month-old grandson. I'm not a practitioner, but there is autism all over my family tree. Is there anything I can look for to see if he needs your help? I only know the lessons I've done with you and Feldenkrais lessons.
Okay, Nettie. At 1 month is earlier than any research we have read about. I mean, I know what to look for. I just think maybe 1 month is too soon, or at least for our level of knowledge and discernment at this time, it's perhaps too soon in terms of his age. One of the things that can be, or phenomena that can be observed with children on the autism spectrum early on in their life is that the way they move, even if they do the movements like rolling from their back, to their belly, but that will be a few months later, they do it differently than children that don't end up being on the spectrum. And one of the elements or qualifiers of where the difference is perceived is in the way they do it. So the children that end up being diagnosed on the spectrum, roll more like one lump, one unit, undifferentiated. So all infants in the beginning roll, I don't know if all, some probably don't, but roll from their back to their side. They use their flexors, their abdominals. So it rounds their back, but if they shift a bit the head and so on, it will roll them to their side. So this is really the initial way that the child would roll, not all the way to their belly, but will begin rolling. And then as around the age of 4 months, I mean, there's a lot of twitches and so on, but around up until, around 4 months, the brain's activity primarily contracts the flexors. So the hands get fisted, the belly goes in, the legs get bent, the knees are brought up to the chest. That's the kind of activity initially, and initially also all involuntary or reflex, which it's supposed to be, and it's important that it happens. So all infants initially will tend to roll in an undifferentiated way. But then around age 4, 5, 6 months, if the child either is unable to do it or if they do it, they don't do it. It's like a twisting movement where first the head moves and the eyes look at something, and that twists the neck, the upper back, the lower back, the pelvis, and it flips the child over and the head comes up to vertical. That motion is done in a much less differentiated way by at least some of the kids that end up being on autism, which from my point of view represents is a challenge in the brain's ability to differentiate in general, or actually perceive differences. So I'd say so. And the other thing is, and I'm not sure that would be the case or not, but if there is really reduced mobility, I would also, think of taking the child to get some lessons. And the third suggestion, if you have a concern, and if it's so rampant in your family, just see if the infant can get, or the baby can get, a few lessons, because again, from our work too, but from some research that is done in Rutgers University, when working with children that end up having, certain challenges, all the way to ADD, ADHD, and all the ADD, ADHD, and all this stuff, is certain areas in the brain that they realize that are really not differentiating, not perceiving differences properly. And as when that's discovered, even at 6 weeks old, within a few weeks and minor amount of intervention, there is a correction in that. And it can't hurt the child. Our work is, we're not going to try and stretch it or do tummy time or expect it to sit up when it's, 6 weeks old or 8 weeks old or 3 months old or anything like that. But within what the child does, it's not a question of autism, but if you haven't seen it yet, go to YouTube and look for Devora, the name of the girl Devora. And she was not using her left arm because of injury, actually, to the nerves. But you can see there how with an 8 weeks old, I'm doing work that helps her brain begin to recognize the arm is there and begin differentiating. And within, 6 minutes?
Yeah.
6 minutes in the video that I worked with her, she starts moving that left arm for the first time. And they've been doing therapy with her for 4 weeks, a week after she was born, because it was diagnosed right away. It was a birth injury. So it's extremely powerful. The brain just goes like, yeah, okay. And so that's my recommendation. If you have a concern, give the child another, few weeks, make sure the family is settled, everybody's okay. And if you can find an ABM practitioner, they're trained to know to think in those terms. So hope that's helpful. and let us know how your grandson is doing.
And I think, I mean, I know that you will agree with this too. You don't want her to be over concerned.
No, but she's saying something very important.
I get this too.
Yeah.
But the fact that you are aware of ABM at this age is such a huge gift to your family and you. I know you've added another comment, which I'm going to read out here. She says, Nettie says, his hands are open all the time. I heard that healthy baby's brain keeps the fists closed.
Fists closed or just lets go, like when they sleep. Sometimes it just gets freer, but they don't open it. I don't know, Nettie, where you live, but if you live near us in California, I want to see your grandchild. That might be an indicator that, you see, the challenge is he shouldn't get therapy because there's nothing he's supposed to do. So in this age, any kind of therapy that tries to routinize a movement or make him do or have him will actually be disruptive to the nervous system. So it's really important to not go anywhere where they will try to make him fill in the blank. So if you can come to us in California, or go to one of our graduates that have learned how to work with, specifically how to work with children. And in this case, I'd also recommend somebody who is a bit more experienced. I think that just a few lessons could already make a big shift. And if they don't make a big shift, it will also be very informative. But usually it does. So I wouldn't wait and wonder if I see enough. I was going to tell you do it anyway, but when you say it keeps the hands open all the time, I would suggest lessons for sure. Okay. All right.
Kavita came back after your comment to her. So helpful. Thank you for the tips. And yes, his toes are out of the cast. I will pass on the info to the practitioners working with him. Much appreciated.
Have them, Kavita, actually listen to what I said.
To what Anat said.
Don't translate it. They are used to hearing me, and it will trigger rich associations in their head. So, yeah.
For sure.
Okay.
Here we go. Nettie says thank you. Kavita says she sure will make them listen to it. Sorry, one other thing. I've noticed his arms are moving differently since him being in the cast. It's only been a week. I wonder if this is normal.
Well, yeah. I mean, you say it's only been a week, but the brain starts changing instantaneously. That's how our work happens. I mean, the brain responds to its experience. It doesn't wait a month and says, oh, things happened for a month, let me notice it. So, but it's a wonder, it's okay. I mean, he needs the cast, and there are ways to work. And also when the cast gets off, the brain will still be responsive. So, but it has to reorganize itself. It's actually, in a sense, a good sign. All of a sudden, one leg is significantly heavier than the other. Remember, he's little. And it also happens to grown-ups. So the arms don't work by themselves, and legs by themselves, and torso by itself. No matter what we do, the brain has to account for all of us. That means it integrates the whole, just under 1/10 of a second, there's complete integration in the brain, or we couldn't have any continuous movement. Nothing would be continuous. So now that there is that leg that's different there, and the pelvis loses mobility because of that, because of the weight and the whole thing, and whatever else is going on, the arms have to organize and move in relation to the quote-unquote new body it has now for a little while. So yes, it's normal, and just keep creating gentle richness of movement, and and try to do what I suggested, and let's see. It should be very helpful. Yes, next.
A question from Roberto Pasquarello. Do you think movement is the best way to make changes in the brain, as opposed to the other methods that are out there that don't involve too much movement?
I think that movement is central to, first of all, I think there's a misnomer. So, for example, in terms of change the brain not with movement or with movement. There's always movement. It doesn't matter. Even if you're told to sing some hymn or repeat, in certain kinds of meditation, or if it's walking meditation, or if you sit listening, paying attention to how you breathe, or you do qigong, or qigong is movement, but a lot. So there's always movement. The question, I would change the question, and I understand your question, is it a good idea, and could it enhance, a positive brain change and personal growth, and if we intentionally, first of all, do movement, focus on movement as a mechanism for change. And of course I would say yes, because this is my whole work. But again, I say not all movement is equal. So if you do movement automatically, or let's say somebody goes to the health club and gets on a treadmill and puts it on a speed that they're comfortable at, and watch TV or listen to a book, it's valuable. It's not that it's not valuable to do it. There is value in doing it. But in terms of driving brain change and improving the quality with which the brain works, if we pay attention here comes my essentials, right? If we use the movement as a source of input with which we can work in ways that inform our brains and, wake it up to notice and create new connections and so on and so forth, movement is extremely powerful in doing it. Trying to do it with minimal, like when in one of my conversations with Dr. Michael Merzenich, he developed, now it's called Brain HQ. And I said to him, Mike, if and that's, first of all, it's still movement. Your eyes are moving, and the eyes have a third of the cortex is visual cortex, which is connected to a million other parts of the brain. So the utilization of eye movements can be very powerful because it has such big impact on the brain and completely disproportional to the size of the eyes. But you're moving your fingers on the computer, and you're breathing, and your back is moving a little bit, and the brain has to account to that. However, the focus is on what is on the screen, and it's very powerful program, the
Brain HQ.
Brain HQ. There's quite a bit of research that they've done that shows that it definitely impacts the brain in a very positive way. I told Mike, if people did what we call NeuroMovement for the busy life, those 7-ish minute animated movement lessons that, by the way, we upgraded, right? There, we should announce that too. Oh my God. Anyway, we'll do that if we remember. So there's basically 40 movement lessons like that, different movement lessons that I call them brain pops. They sort of wake the brain, they tone it, they tone it to be ready to go, right? So I said, if they do this few minute movement lesson before they do your exercise, and then perhaps even after, but certainly before, I think people will have even better outcomes. And a few months later, he told me that they checked it out and they found it to be the case. So absolutely. And of course, movement. And now there's more and more research. We work with that. I've done presentations to that effect. We're now working in a school district, and we'll see what we get there. However, the very, very tight correlation between movement and cognition. Actually, there will be no cognition without movement. So yes. So the very short answer is yes.
Yeah. A question from Elena. Any advice for a 6-year-old on the spectrum who is currently off medication? He became very agitated and aggressive. How can I help him navigate this difficult period? He started to hit me, and I got the advice to hit him back from his ABA therapist.
Wow. Wow. Let me ask her, where is she? Stay
Yeah.
on the thing, okay? So
Yeah, no, I was just checking.
Yeah, I know. So Elena, I will look to answer you, but have you heard the initial podcast that talk about the essentials, and or have you read my book, Kids Beyond Limits, or have you seen the 5-day parent-child workshop? The NeuroMovement 5-day parent-child workshop, because I need to know where you are in order to have a sense of how to even respond to you. And from your comment, I also know that he's getting the ABA therapy. So if you send us another message and inform us about it, I will try and be helpful. And also, when you answer is, why was he taken off medication and how gradually was it done? Okay, so those are my questions to you.
This is from Maria. Anat, during your session with new ABM trainees, she's in the new training, you said you forbid to divorce during the training.
Yes.
Sort of
I said it with a little bit humor, but yes. Oh, she says it. She's a smiley face. Yeah.
She says, what if you're, and then she means partner, what if your partner decided to separate, not a student? Is there anything ABM can do with emotional pain?
Okay, so first of all, of course, there's no way, Maria, and thanks for your honesty, there's no way, for, ABM to control your partner, right? So I'm sorry, it sounds like this is difficult and perhaps something you didn't want. The answer is definitely yes. And maybe I'll talk about it more in class because I can then use, because you guys are so, is she in the, she's in basic?
Yes.
Yeah, in the basic. I get into it in great detail, but the thing that I want to say to you now is get as much support as you can and know that feeling pain is part of it. I mean, so we want to alleviate it, to not have it be so extreme, and anything that you know to do that soothes you or supports you, then feel, short of, I don't know, I wouldn't recommend heavy medication or something like that. And but we're going to see you in January and bring up the question again, and I'll answer it in, I'll get into it in a lot more detail. Yes.
Question.
And tell me, Maria, I know I didn't really answer your question, so if there's something follow-up you want to do on that, just, I don't want you to feel like I'm rejecting you or not wanting to answer. I want to answer you in a full way. Yeah. Okay.
From Anuradha, dear Anat and Neil, I'm part of the segment, the training, segment 2. Hari, 9 years old with autism diagnosis. He can walk normally. After recent ABM lessons, the changes we recently see him walking on his knees, riding a bike while standing on the pedal. And she actually added another thing. Hari uses spelling to express that he is so happy that I'm taking the ABM training and very sad at the same time that he's not going to be with me in Arizona, since I don't have family caretakers come with me to take care of him. He has emotional ups and downs, requesting me to quit and later telling me sorry because I'm going through an emotional roller coaster. I'm worried, will he be able to handle me being away for 12 days?
Okay, go back to her initial question.
Yes.
I have questions about emotions. I guess I talked about stress in the holidays, so it comes in a slightly different outfit. So first of all, Harry's wonderful, and of course I've worked with him. And what?
You're speaking to the camera.
Oh, I'm speaking,
but
I'm
speaking
looking
to the question.
No, I'm reading it.
Okay.
Okay, so sometimes I don't know. I'm not there. I have not given the lessons, but sometimes what happens, when a child, and it happens with children when they grow spontaneously. So let's say a child crawls and then they stand up, but when they're tired or when they're learning something else and their brain is occupied, they might go back to crawling for a little bit. So that's one version of that. The other one is that he learned to walk a certain way, and if the lessons increased, changed how he perhaps uses his back and the relationships, and there's more differentiation, it is easier to maintain balance on the knees because you're less tall. And so he might be just doing what he needs to do till he will be able to go from the knees back to his feet. I mean, I'm sure he can be on his feet, but if he's in his feet, it probably will demand on his brain to go. So there is like a regression to integrate something new to move forward. This could very well be that. And, have whichever practitioner works with him next, check into it. See if he has developed some difficulty standing up or can help him integrate what he's learned and changed into standing up. I wouldn't be too concerned, and let him ride the bicycle any way he wants. I mean, let's see what he does. When children are typically developing, and if it's not the firstborn, usually by the second, certainly the thirdborn, they just do what they do, and as long as there's not a problem, nobody really puts much time or attention to it. But with a child with special needs, we look at them under a microscope, and sometimes there are fluctuations. So allow the fluctuations, observe, and if it looks to you like something is off, then by all means, contact us. We'll figure a way to look into it and maybe have on a Zoom call Harry there, and we can look at him, or have practitioner look, however you choose to do it. Okay, thank you.
Elena got back to us regarding her 6-year-old on the spectrum.
Oh, which country is she?
Well, she didn't say, but she says there are no ABM practitioners in her country, but she has read the book and she's currently watching the workshop. The doctor decided to gradually take him off the medication because he has a resistance to everything we tried. She lists some of the medications. We have to do some genetic tests to see if anything would work. And then she also says she's not a big believer in what they've tried so far. ABM resonated with her so much. She needs to finish the workshop, but this recent behavior change hit her hard.
Yeah, so... And
I'm also talking about ABM with other parents. I would love to invite Mike to our country to be one of the 5 hosts. Which country are you in, Elena?
Okay. Sounds like 5 hosts. Is it England or? It doesn't matter.
To say, if there are enough families, then they can host a practitioner.
Yeah, Mike. So. Okay, so. Another question I need to ask you is, how often does he get ABA therapy? And where are you from? Romania. And how often does he get ABA therapy? And does he get other therapies? And let's answer in the meanwhile another question.
Okay. Roberto Pasquarello again. Does having pain in only one part of the body tell you something, for example, around the right shoulder blade, as opposed to having it moving around the body?
You're asking me very general question. If you could tell me, I can assume that tell me what it is that you are experiencing, I might be able to respond. Otherwise, you ask me a theoretical question that I then can launch into a 40-minute discussion. But so, Roberto, if you can just send a personal question, so that I am feeling this, or my wife is feeling that, or something really specific, experiential to the person, of course, asking about yourself or your child. Yes.
This has come back from Maria, who was talking about splitting up from a partner. Sure, and thank you. I find it helpful to employ your essentials to emotional level as well as to the physical.
Yeah. And then the other gal,
Elena, see if she got back. Not yet.
Not yet.
And Maria also says, and I want to hear more on this topic. A lot of the people I deal with while practicing now, yes, I'm on segment 2 of basic course, are coming with emotional pains. As the holiday season is approaching, the pain is getting biggest.
Okay, so finally I got the question about emotional pain and the holidays. Yeah.
And I'm going to have to leave you to answer this because I have to go and teach. It is 10 to...
yes.
I have to go and teach in class. But Anat is going to finish off the podcast without me. If you just scroll down like this, you'll get the list of comments.
Let's see if Elena.
Okay, there we go. Daily. There we go. ABA. It's not 100% ABA, just elements of ABA combined with cognitive behavioral therapy. We also tried speech therapy, and now we found a place that does sensory therapy only.
Okay. All right. So first of all, Elena, I don't know if you can, but I would, if you can travel in Europe, to one of those intensive weeks that one of the practitioners are doing, then that would be great. And we have one of our practitioners, I don't know if you're aware, Chris Kriskovsky, that is starting to travel. Occasion. I mean, he'll be a traveling practitioner. So if you email our center, scheduling at anatbanielmethod.com will keep you informed. But to go back to your child, I'm trying to think how to say it so it will be understood correctly where I come from. I truly, deeply believe that all therapists that are working with children with special needs are angels. I mean, it's not easy. It's a stressful situation and so on. And the intentions are extremely good. I truly know that. I happen to have the way I think and the way I understand how, we learn and what things could be favorable and what things could be maybe not favorable for the child as we try to facilitate for the child their development. ABA and some other approaches tend to look to apply a lot of repetitions and sort of prescribed things to do with the child, and to look to try and get the child through that to somehow to learn to do it. And some kids are more compliant, and for some kids it's been helpful, and for some kids it's actually disturbing. Now, your son just got off medication and back on medications, and these are medications that impact the brain. So, I take Advil, and I feel, that I'm fine, I can function, but I feel the difference if I take Advil or I don't take Advil. So, and that's a nothing medication, especially in small amounts for a short period of time. So, I would look, believe it or not, into nutritional stuff, and if you're not doing it yet, to try and support the system from all this. He obviously does not do well with those medications. And so that's the first thing. The second thing is I would really, at least for now, if you started doing ABM, we would ask you to take a few months to not do it, so we have a chance to get the child to experience a different way of being successful, of being interactive with others. However, if you're doing the therapies, I would not do any therapy that tries to make the child do it, say hello, or the prompting, that is. But when you say sensory, I don't know how they do sensory, but I know floor time, if it's done in how I understand Greenspan to have meant it, is a much more in harmony with my understanding. The other one is Sunrise. Sunrise gives very beautiful tools for parents. And if you can travel somewhere and start getting lessons from him. Now, he doesn't get to bite you and he doesn't get to hit you. Now, I wouldn't hit him back, because and if that worked the first time you did it and you said no and he stopped, fine, then it's okay. I wouldn't. But I would look, he's 6, I don't know how big the boy is. It's very hard to say. I know what I would do with him, but I would immediately start doing my work with him to get the brain to come to a place of greater well-being. So I can be successful with saying no to hitting, because the child gets an alternative right away. So now, but you can hold him and say no, and if there's something that you know that he likes, like distracts him, that helps him calm down. So it's kind of like the low-hanging fruit, low level of approaching it, that is not transformational for the child necessarily, but it makes it manageable. I wish I could say more to you, but at this level of agitation and actually regression, and it looks like the medication is part of it, I would really hope for you to be able to travel somewhere in Europe. And, they're graduate, you don't have to wait for Mike. I mean, there's practitioners in Holland and in Germany and in England and in France. Actually, France is only visiting practitioners, but there's also a practitioner in France. So you maybe go to one of them. They will know how to start working with him. Now let me go about the emotional stuff. One of the things that Neil basically spoke to, without naming it that way, is that many of us, there's one of the reasons the holidays can be so stressful, because there's an enormous level of expectation. It's really loaded. You're supposed to have a family. Some people don't have a family. A person may have just lost their, not lost, but separated from their husband. Some people don't have necessarily where to go. And then for many people, going to the family can be quite stressful. And so the first thing to do is almost self-talk, is become aware. That's the awareness part. What's the expectations? I expect to be invited to. I expect to feel blah, blah. I expect to get amazing presents. I expect to have more money to buy presents. And there I would offer you a tool that totally works according to the essentials, but it's not my tool. And some of you might know about her. That's Byron Katie. Byron Katie, you can go Byron Katie and get on her website, and she has a bunch of videos that she talks. She's an amazing, amazing person and being. And she developed a one-page, she calls it the 4 questions, where you question yourself and you start giving yourself answers. And basically what she takes you or me, whoever does that, is through a very wonderful process of differentiation on the emotional level. Doing a movement lesson, if you have the DVDs or streaming of some of my programs, and if you have some that you've had for a while, I recommend to get, new ones, so the brain has some novelty and so on. Doing the lessons, especially if you do like a minimum of 2 to 3 a week, when you have some quiet time, and preferably before you go to bed, and when you're done with everything else, you will feel better. It's because your brain works better, your whole body, the metabolic processes improve. So I would strongly recommend that. So, and don't expect to not get zapped if you tend to get zapped. It's just that, and when we get zapped and it's a regressive experience, it's also very undifferentiated. So it's like a flood. And that's one of the reasons these feelings are so terrifying. Because it's like, all of a sudden losing control of your body. You're trying to walk and you're flying places and falling and rolling and having no control. It's scary. But if we can leave just a little bit, kind of a little thing in our head that says, this is just how I feel right now. It doesn't represent anything real that's happening out there. And then go and do NeuroMovement for the busy life. Have it on your phone. Go to the bathroom and sit on the bathtub on the edge and do a lesson. I mean, and by the way, by doing this, you train yourself to get a lot more resilient with to have a system that knows to recover a lot better, which is basically what resilience is about. You start in a good place, and when you drop from it, you are able to come back easier and faster, and fewer things tend to fly you into your difficult feelings and emotions. And again, the name is Byron Katie. It's Byron, Byron Katie, Katie. And I strongly recommend to try her out. So I'm going to see what else. Roberto, I asked you to answer. I have pain in my upper back by my right shoulder blade there for a long time, and it always stays in the same place. Well, Roberto, I don't know if you've tried doing the movement lessons. Now I understand why you asked the question, because maybe if it moves around, there's more hope to get rid of it. I don't know. But and if there is a practitioner near where you live, I would strongly recommend to get a series, what we call intensives, because obviously there's some kind of pattern that creates a certain pressure for the pain to be there, but it's also already mapped in the brain. We get pain because we get pain, whatever, but then we learn there's patterns. How many of you have gotten rid of a pain, but then if you had some trauma or got the flu or something and the pain comes back? That means when there's stress on the system, it regresses to earlier patterns. And if you had pain, and I have it, I've had, I've been a dancer and so on, so I have certain injuries. I got completely out of the pain, but under certain stresses, one or two of those pains pop. Now I know, it's like an old visitor. Hello. So it's not in the injury, it's in the neurological configuration that when there is a distress to the system, it recognizes that and it says, okay, here we are. So that's my recommendation, to try and do that. I have gifted a friend, Hedy, with a whole body fitness video. He was once an active runner, even downing the Boston Marathon. Wow. He became unable to walk or stand overnight. Conventional therapy did not work. He is suffering from neuralgia and has no feeling in his hands or feet. Wow. He is very active at the gym, but is unable to balance himself to stand. I'm hoping the videos will be of some help. Me too. And the other thing, Hedy, while he's doing those videos, if he can just either not do the gym or do very gentle, because if he's trying to force himself back into sensation and, mobility and so on, it could, or it's likely to aggravate his condition. It doesn't feel like it. It's the forcing. And he does what he used to be. He's obviously a powerful person, and he was able to, with a lot of stamina and hanging in there and running the Boston Marathon and all that stuff. But to recover from what he has, his resilience in the sense of stamina and commitment to feeling better is fantastic. Again, if he lives in Boston, there are practitioners around there, if he could just get an intensive of 5 or 10, lessons in 1 week, and then some more lessons for a few weeks, start doing work at home, there is a chance to help his nervous system recover. Maria Alexandrova, yay! There is a perfect solution to my pain, to catch up with the treating that I'm behind now. TMLs, thank you, Anat. Oh yeah, how about, she's in the training, so there's a lot of movement lessons she's doing the online segment, so she can do a lot of it. And I believe it is helpful for my future clients and correct current guinea pigs. Can't wait for January. Okay, guys, we are at 11:01. Thank you for being on the call. And the last for this year, that be on December 11th, will be with a very well-known teacher, and we're going to announce who he is. Or I can just say it's Richard Miller. He's the guy that developed the rest yoga, and he's going to be live. And I'm going to open it to all your questions, and for him to endow his wisdom and techniques for your own well-being, for your well-being in the holidays, and just to have a conversation with him. He's a fabulous guy, and of course has made a huge difference for PTSD, and veterans and so on. Okay, thank you very much, and meet you in about a month.
Thank you for joining us on NeuroMovement Revolution with Anat Baniel. You will find all of our podcasts and additional resources on our website at www.anatbanielmethod.com. You can also subscribe to this podcast for free on iTunes, iHeartRadio, Spotify, Google Play, Stitcher, and TuneIn. We look forward to seeing you online for our next NeuroMovement Revolution.